Welcome back, everybody, to the Denver Dzogchen podcast. Today, I'm so excited to talk about the most important practice probably in all of Vajrayana and in the Ngondro, and that is Guru Yoga. So I'm so excited to be here with Joe to talk with you about it, to find out why this practice is so special and unique and important, and how many cool things can result from doing this practice.
Thank you, Damien. Good to see you and good to see everyone out there. Welcome. Yeah, Vajrayana, at least as it is seen in a modern way. Vajrayana, like everything, has changed through the years. But the focus right now is on unification with the Guru. This has probably always been the case as a main practice, but it's especially important these days. And I'm excited to discuss this part as well, because it's not only the final part of the Ngondro, whether it's 5 or 4 parts, it's the last part is always the Guru Yoga, but it's also the bridge between Ngondro, which means preliminary, and the actual main practice, which this is very much a part of.
Yeah, and I know that it can be really confusing because people hear the word guru and immediately think about all kinds of scandalous things, or following and worshiping a person, or there can be a lot of different ideas about what guru yoga could possibly really be about. So maybe you could tell us a little bit more. What really is guru yoga, and what are we doing?
I don't know if I'm qualified to really say that, but I'll give my perspective, having done a lot of guru yoga, and we can share both of our insights. And since you've also done a lot of it, I think it's important to understand what the word means. What does guru mean? And in Tibetan, it's Lama Naljor. What does Lama really mean? It's easy, as you said, to be confused because there have been some in the West in the last 50 years or so. There's been some examples of not very good gurus out there, and I'm not naming names, but a lot of questionable people. First, the Hindus came, and the guru is really important there, where you really do see the guru as a kind of like an aspect of God, right? Of the ultimate. And so whatever the guru says goes, and then that also carries a little bit of energy like that in the Vajrayana. So it's easy to be a little bit confused. But first of all, what is a guru? What is a lama? If we talk like Lama Naljor, Naljor means yoga. What is a lama? I think the best way to explain it is lama, as Tulku Urgyen used to say, lama means a being who is heavy with blessings. Heavy with blessings. This is my favorite definition of lama because it captures what I was originally intrigued by when I first met. First, I met Chokanima Rinpoche. Actually, I met another Lama previous to that, but didn't have a connection. Then I met Chokanima Rinpoche, and then I met his father, where I really got my mind blown. And I was able, just through force of proximity and his own state of being very heavy with blessings, to perform a kind of guru yoga in his presence, even though I didn't even know what that was and had no idea. I think if we think of a guru as a god, or someone who's entirely perfect, or someone whose every word we have to hang on, we can really find ourselves in trouble. And this is not a podcast about being careful with how you relate to your guru. That's another topic, and there's lots of books written about it. And it's very wise, if you're going to enter into the Vajrayana, to be careful up front with your guru. But we don't need to go into the details about that. We can really just see that a proper Lama is someone who has traversed more of the path than you have, and is full of what we call Jinlab, or blessings in the Tibetan tradition, which can mean lots of things, but they're full of a kind of energetic vibration, I guess we could call it, and a little bit, to be a little new agey, which, by connecting with the teacher, not just in a having dinner together or whatever, but especially in this formal ritualistic way, those blessings, you can participate in them. They can flow to you. And it's those blessings which are the direct access to the nature of one's own mind, and the path to follow as we move along the Vajrayana.
Yeah, that rings true for me as well. The metaphor that I often think of is the guru or the lama is a little bit like a crack in the matrix, right? Like because we're so, our vision is so pervaded by dense karma, but their karma is like open, right? So like they're like a hole through the karmic density that we see, and like when we connect to them, we get a gap in our own karma. And so to me, it's like we're touching into something beyond a person by connecting to this person, that they're more like an absence of something than a presence of something in some ways.
I think that's nicely said. Yeah. And this is another important way to look at the Lama. It's kind of like the Lama is the end of a chain, of a live wire chain that in the Nyingma tradition flows from Samantabhadra. If you're a Kagyu or a Sarma school person, comes from Vajradhara. But those are not beings, right? It's not like Samantabhadra has a house and does shopping, right? Samantabhadra is the ultimate state, the ultimate nature. And that same ultimate nature is in an unrecognized state in us. So by grabbing onto the live wire of the teacher, the electricity of this ability to awaken, this insight into who we really, really are behind our personality, behind our memories, behind our ideas, behind our hopes and fears, behind our habits and so forth, behind our body and mind, that becomes possible. And this is the real high-speed method of the Vajrayana. It's the special method. It is handed down from teacher to student to teacher to student to student to student to student to us. And by doing the ritual practice of visualizing the Lama in a certain way and saying certain prayers, you open up the possibility of really getting a hold of this source of blessings. The Lama, I think of the Lama as being like a tube, the end of a tube, which there are many other pieces of that tube going all the way back to primordial time, to Samantabhadra's own awakening. If you know about how that is written up in the Tantras. And the water of blessings that's flowing through that tube is still flowing. That is incredible to me. I'll give you a case in point. We had in town just a week ago a Lama named Adzom Gyalse Rinpoche. He's the reincarnation of the son of the famous Tertin and master of the Rime movement, Adzom Drukpa. And Adzom Drukpa's original son, he had two sons, and one was reborn as this Adzom Gyalse, and one was reborn as Adzom Pelo Rinpoche. And I'm originally a student of Adzom Pelo, but since Adzom Pelo has not been able to travel for some years, Adzom Gyalse has kind of adopted the students of Adzom Pelo to some degree, and it has made a connection with our center. And he wrote us and said he was going to be passing through Denver and whatever, and we ended up spending an entire weekend with him. And we requested that he give a reading transmission of a famous Dzogchen text called Flight of the Garuda. And he sat right here on the couch and he gave that what's called a lung in Tibetan. And you could feel it right during the lung, even for people who, like yourself, who are online, right? Because we live in different towns. You can feel those blessings flow directly down from the author of the text, who is Shabkar Soktruk Rangrol, right? This famous master in the just one half a generation before Patra Rinpoche and Khyentse Wangpo and stuff. He died in about 1830 or something, 1850 maybe. I can't remember his exact time, but he was born in the 18th century, lived into the 19th century, and he was part of this lineage. And when Rinpoche sat on the couch and read us the text, you could feel as if it was the actual words of Shabkar coming out of Shabkar's own mouth. And this is the super special feature of the Vajrayana generally, and it's exactly what we tap into when we tap into the Guru Yoga. But in the case of the Guru Yoga, it's the essence of the master's realization that we're tapping into, not just a reading transmission or something.
Yeah, and this connection that we make and establish in Ngondro practice, like we're receiving we're beseeching and making offerings and prostrations using the 7-branch prayer or whatever to make these deep, deep connections to this guru principle, which I think is so important for people to remember. And as you often say, Guru Rinpoche wears different masks, right? Like it's really this ultimate nature that we're relating to, but that appears to us due to our karmic vision in different ways as like a manifestation of the source. And you can have a Guru Rinpoche, or you could have an Adzom Gyalse Rinpoche, or it can be all these different forms of the same thing. And by forging a connection to this, I love this principle of you become what you meditate on, right? Like you'll notice this experience in our life, whatever you place your attention on regularly, you'll start to manifest its qualities. If you watch football all day, then you'll start to manifest all the qualities of a football fan, right? And you'll know all the stats, and you'll know all the numbers, and you'll have almost the cities of NFL fandom. But the same principle applies here. If you place your attention on Guru Rinpoche and your Lama, then you become like them, because we regularly think of them and connect to them and make offerings to them. We're opening that channel, like we talked about in the mandala offering, that generosity opens the channel. By making offerings, we're connecting ourselves to this, and then it starts to flow in. And then then later, when you finish the Ngondro, if you do the 3 roots practice, there's a Lama portion of that where you actually visualize yourself as the Lama, so that you fully have taken in this to the point where you are it, and not something outside of you.
I think this is the crucial thing. And I'm glad you brought up about the masks that Guru Rinpoche wears, because many people have a little confusion about this, right? It's not uncommon in our times to study with many different lamas. You might have your so-called root lama, who different people define that in different ways. It's usually defined as the person who points your own mind essence out to you in a way that you understand. It becomes your root lama. But if you read the biographies of the masters, they say, "Oh, I consider that guy my root lama." They have many root lamas, right? It means a lama who's had a profound effect on you. Sometimes I have heard many people bring this up, that they're a little confused, like, who should I be visualizing above my head? Like, who's my real lama? Because in my case, I first met Tulku Urgyen, and he always will be the root of my path inside of Vajrayana. But I didn't get to spend unlimited amount of time with him, like someone like Eric Pema Kunsang or Andreas. They spent years and years. I didn't have that opportunity. I spent a lot more time with Tirtan in Tibet. I visited him 15 times, so wait a minute. What if I visualize, the Lama in Tibet, am I then sort of dissing Tulku Urgyen? How do I work with this? So easy, so easy. Guru Rinpoche is the only Lama. And Guru Rinpoche wears many faces. He wears many masks. If you're very advanced, he can even wear the mask of all beings, because all beings are really teaching you, just as Milarepa said, right? First it's your Lama, then it's books is your teacher, and then all phenomenal experience. At the highest level, all phenomenal experience are the manifestation of Guru Rinpoche. Everything good that happens is the blessing. Everything that we call bad is the purification aspect. And everyone we come in contact with is the Lama. That is the way to look at that. In fact, Tulku Urgyen used to tell a story that he knew a Lama in Kham who would prostrate. He would be in retreat most of the time. When he would come out, people would see him prostrating to dogs in the street. And dogs in Tibet are not like dogs here, right? They're either guard dogs, or they're have no level. So it's not like they were like, your pet, right? Dogs and pigs, this guy would prostrate to. And when people said, like, "What are you doing?" he would say, "I'm not prostrating to them. I'm prostrating to their Buddha nature." In the same way, all the teachers, sometimes they say there are 3 levels. There's the teachers who give you the pointing out instructions. There's the teachers who give you empowerments. There's the teachers who give you explanations. There's teachers who give you reading transmission. You can have many lamas. You take a tour to India or Nepal, you might meet 10 lamas, and maybe some of them you feel a very big connection, or they recognize you as having a link and stuff. It can be confusing if you just imagine that they are all wearing the mask of that person, but behind it is just Guru Rinpoche, who's sort of in the Nyingma school, the primary Lama. He's the ultimate, Guru. Rinpoche means like the precious guru. So actually that could refer to anyone. Then you're safe. And then you just can visualize Guru Rinpoche above your head, and all your lamas are included. No one's left out. You don't have to have, okay, wait, what's the order? It should be Tulku Urgyen, and then above that Karmapa, because that's how he did it. Or, well, wait, but I didn't know Karmapa. You can be very confused about this. It's a key point to see that all lamas are the same Lama. And some manifest it more clearly because of your karmic connection, and some manifest it less clearly. Some lamas have a lot more worldly behavior around them, and they can get our school into trouble. And some have very little and are completely devoid of ordinariness, and those we can really feel faith in. No, but whoever it is, even your fellow sangha mates, since they're full of wisdom. I mean, I constantly hear pieces of wisdom from this guy right here. Damien's been very helpful to me. All are wearing a mask. He wears the mask of Damien. I wear the mask of Joe. But if you're receiving teachings from the person, they are all Guru Rinpoche. And then all are one. And all of that problem with like who's who and what order and stuff is completely washed away. I wanted to mention that because when you start to think about gurus, this becomes an issue if you're studying a lot of stuff. I give you an example. Right here is a photograph of the Bayonne in Cambodia, and it's been recently put forth that these faces are Vajrasattva. So if you happen to be in Cambodia and you go to the Bayonne, you see the face of Vajrasattva, you think, there's my Lama, it's Guru Rinpoche. The same, right? The same. So it makes your path a lot easier to have this viewpoint.
And it's also helpful to remember that this pure vision is also a practice, like a lojong, a mind training, because I love the story if you read the Miraculous 16th Karmapa, one of his attendants one day discovered, a shit stain in his underwear, and it was like the Vajradhara shits, like it was like traumatizing to him. But because that's part of our problem is that we see things as lesser, and so we're training to see ourselves and see other sentient beings and seeing our lama as pure. So even if you see something from your lama that is not, seems ordinary, seems human, seems not, part of it is that we need to let go of our concepts that we don't have Buddha nature, and we're training to do this with our Lama. So we let go of those kind of thoughts of ordinariness. And when we have we can see whatever they do as a magical display by training ourselves to see it that way, then that's beneficial for us, because then we think that we also could have that nature despite our foibles and, difficulties and illusions that we have, that we have this nature despite all of these things. And we don't have to think that because we have foibles or whatever, that we don't have Buddha nature.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, the Guru Yoga practice itself is really tuning into the I almost said the mind, but the Lama doesn't have a mind. They have what's called a tuk, which means like the enlightened essence. We have minds, right? Sem. And then we think we have a Sem, we also have a Rigpa, and how do we get rid of our Sem so Rigpa can shine? All these kind of things are just ideas, right? When you come into the presence of the Lama, especially if you have the good fortune to meet a great master, like Garchen Rinpoche, or even see Garchen Rinpoche on the podcast or TV or whatever, it starts, his very presence, even his presence in the United States, to some degree, starts to wash away some of these ideas. And when the ideas are washed away enough, you do realize that actually you are already pure at your essence. It's just that when it comes out, it's a little crooked. So we have to watch that. And that's the process of purifying our behavior and becoming more and more accustomed to acting like the Guru. And how do we do that? By imagining that the Guru is blessing us body, speech, mind, qualities, activities, and so forth, and then actually dissolving into us, which is how most of the Guru yogas are done. Sometimes in Kagyu, you dissolve into the Guru. But one way or the other, you actually are mingling your mind with the enlightened essence of the Lama, the tuk of the Lama. And then for a brief period, during that time, if you are trying hard and very relaxed and fortunate, you actually can see through those eyes. You yourself are putting on the Guru's mask, so to speak, and looking out through their eyes. And this is how we carry it on. Just like the analogy of the tube. If we start with, say, Garib Dorje, the first human Vidyadhara in the Dzogchen lineage, he had a student. The student's name was Manjushri Mitra. Manjushri Mitra had to screw his own self, his tube, onto the tube of Garib Dorje. And when that happens, here come the blessings. And then the blessing can flow out to Manjushri Mitra students. Those blessings are still flowing. Whatever
Yeah.
is happening in the politics of the lamas, it doesn't matter.
Well, I've been thinking about that recently, that one way to look at the path is we're taking all of this, like we have all these patterns, right? Like from our parents and from our upbringing and from society. And most of them are just garbage habits, right? Like just not helpful, not beneficial, and self-centered, et cetera. And and so this purification and accumulation, in some ways, it's like we're taking this egocentric mind and flushing it out and pouring this Dharma mind into us. So instead of ordinary words, now dharmic words come out of my mouth. And instead of an ordinary mind, it's the Lama's mind. And it's that tube you're talking about. We flush out this selfish, ordinary, boring human being that we used to be, and filling ourselves up with literally becoming a manifestation of the Dharma instead of being a boring human being. And it's also a miraculous thing. Amazing.
It is, the word is miraculous. You are absolutely right. These methods are so speedy and so effective, so amazing that they still exist and they can still be transmitted to us. And there are still lamas who can give the blessing along with the teachings in such a way that we really can start to screw our own tube onto their tube. It doesn't mean that all of our kleshas and all of our habit patterns will be washed away in 5 seconds. That's very, very rare. It usually takes a whole lifetime at the least. And it can take a lot more than that too, depending on who you are and what you're doing. But the offer is that it's up to us. That's the miraculous thing here. The blessings are the same. The guru doesn't make choices about who's going to get the blessing. I don't like that guy's beard. He's not getting anything, right? The blessings are flowing, just like the sun is shining here in Denver right now. And if you go outside, you get hit by the sun, whether you are a really nice person or a terrible monster. You still get hit by the sun. It's whether you can see what's happening and absorb that. And in the Guru Yoga, we're forcibly absorbing it, right? We're imagining the Guru with all the other lamas and protectors in the tree or whatever, depends on the Ngondro. And then we're making prayers to eliminate some of our conceptual thinking through devotion. And we're imagining that here we are with, on behalf of all beings, and please let your blessings flow to me kind of thing. And there's liturgies for this, and light is coming, and light is coming, and light is coming, and it's purifying our body. It's of all of its ordinary qualities. It's purifying our speech such that, just as you said, the words that come out become the words of the Guru. And that's amazing. I will tell you a story. I'm embarrassed to tell it, and it not my experience, it was somebody else's, but it was a very interesting thing and made me think about this. I was invited years ago to give a talk in Boston at a yoga studio, and a friend of mine brought up a whole bunch of her students who are all Dharma people. And I just said what I usually say, nothing too special, and it wasn't particularly good, I didn't think. But afterwards, it was reported to me by one of the people. This woman told my friend and said, I always wanted to meet Togorjan, and today I kind of feel like I did. And I thought, wow, even for an ordinary person like me, that's possible. What if you really practice? What if you really try? I'm just a lazy guy. But if you really try, it is possible that some of the energy will manifest from the amazingness of the Dharma in what you think, in what you do, in what you say. And how else are we going to benefit beings, right? Our best activities have only gotten us to this point, right? If we want to go further, we need help. And that help comes from the Lama, right? Who is not really the Lama, right? Because to the degree that they've hollowed themselves out, they become a vehicle for their Lama. Oh, that person's hollowed out, so it must be an all the way back, which I think is it's like a miracle. It's like a magical thing in our world. And there are not so many of those. So it's worth practicing for that reason.
And it reminds me just how important devotion is, because I don't remember who said it, maybe you do, where he said, Lama, give me your blessings. And he said, student, give me your devotion, because if you have devotion, then the blessings flow, right? They're always flowing, as you said, in all directions, but you have to have devotion to receive them. You have to open your channel. And that's so much like normally, we think of this as kind of weird, but we have devotion for all kinds of stupid shit. Right? Like we're watching like television with devotion and politics with devotion and opening ourselves to these things and allowing their whatever nonsense to flow into us and become part of who we are and become part of our speech. So instead, we shift that devotion towards something worthy of that, so that qualities can pour into us that benefit beings instead of more nonsense. That's really what's going on here. It's not like some kind of hero worship. It's really just we're always receiving something. So what do we want to receive?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. Devotion is not a is not, we should probably have a whole podcast about devotion, because it's one of the key methods, right? It's really, there's only devotion and compassion are really the methods for the yogi, right? You have compassion toward those who are not moving forward on the path. That's probably the way to put it. And you have devotion for those who are above you on the path. Compassion for those, and that sort of puts you like above people. It's not like that, but those who need it, you have compassion for. Those who can give, who make you have devotion for. And these are two of the most important methods for connecting with that which is behind our minds, that which is our real essence, so to speak, the Sugata Garbha, which all beings have, but for all these lifetimes, or at least all this lifetime, we've overlooked. And when through the practice of Guru Yoga, which is a kind of forcible method. You've got a liturgy that was written by an important Tibetan, or was Guru Rinpoche, or some master who had purified themselves a great deal. So the words themselves have power, and you're using those words to tune in, and then you're allowing something that is inherent in us as humans, the emotional quality, to rise up in the form of love for something that you want to be. And I know how this can be, because when I had met several Zen masters. I was a student of a Zen master, great master, Shengyen Fasher in Taiwan, who's unfortunately since passed away. But I had met other masters. I met Chokanima, who's a great master too. But it wasn't until I met Tulku Urgyen that I was like, all I want to do is whatever you say. All I want to be is whatever you are. And I remember going to see Tulku Urgyen and requesting the transmission of the Ngondro, and also asking him, would you accept me as your student? And how it came out when I did it, I was quite nervous, at the time. I just said, I want to be just like you. Just tell me what to do. I'll do whatever you say. He laughed. He probably laughed because he was like, there's no way you can be like me, but we'll do our best. But it was, it's that kind of thing. That was the beginning of my path of devotion. Before that, you see the master as someone who has some information you need. This is that, right? What it really is they have something that we don't have real words for. We call it blessing, we call it Jinlab, we call it holiness, whatever. And we are attempting to open up that part of us that can receive that, and then focus it with the lens of the text and the lineage of blessings and so forth, such that it can really enter our hearts. And when it does that, a transformation from your ordinary mind of just thinking me all the time can really start to take place. And even if that only takes place 2%, hey, that's a life well lived. You know what I mean? Otherwise,
Yeah.
we only worship basketball players or the super rich. This is not the direction to aim your devotion at, I think. There are better sources of blessings.
Totally. And then we talk about when we say, oh, like even seeing this person or in coming in contact with them has this blessing. It's because for that to even enter your dream has already changed your dream to some extent, like you experienced with Togo Origin. To even have a being like that come into your dream is somewhat of a miracle, because it's like a hole, like I said, in the matrix, is opening up in your karmic vision, where prior you never saw anything like that. And so, yeah, like when Garchen Rinpoche said, that when we have love for beings greater than us, that's devotion, and love for beings who are suffering, that's compassion. That like was an insight for me. Like, oh, it's the same thing. It's just this love. And when you point it that way, it's devotion. When you point it that way, it's compassion, but it's just the same love. That is so amazing. So amazing.
So amazing. Yeah. You hit on something there that I think is really important. The whole of the Ngondro, since we're concluding our Ngondro series, the whole of the Ngondro is about, could be said to be getting out of your own way, getting your thoughts and emotions and general level of selfish confusion out of the way to some degree, gathering the blessings, the merit to be able to understand these things. And then that comes together in the Guru Yoga with this it feels like a transference, but nothing is really being transferred. It's more like recognizing that you already have the jewel. It's like, it's like thinking you lost your wallet and looking everywhere for it, but then finding it in your jacket and being like, I'm saved. You were actually
Yeah.
not saved because you were not lost. You had it, right? It's the same kind of thing. We don't want to think like the Lama's got it, I don't have it, I got to get it from the Lama. It's not that kind of transaction. It's more like being shown what you already have. And what are you really being given in the whole of the Ngondro? Possibility. It is the possibility of transcending our very limited, selfish views and having those be expanded and revitalized by a lineage of teachings and blessings and amazing masters that goes back all the way to Shakyamuni Buddha and before. An incredible opportunity awaits those who are willing to undertake this rather arduous path of the Ngondro. Depends on how old you are. But there are many ways to do it. And ask your own Lama if you're in a wheelchair and you can't make prostrations, this does not stop anything. They have methods for that. If you are dumb and you can't speak, you can still recite Vajrasattva. It's no problem. If you have no hands and so you cannot make the mandala offering, it doesn't matter at all. The main thing is internal. And what are you really getting? Possibility. And the insight that like you had when you realized, oh my God, it's the same love. You already know how to love. You have a wife, you have kids, you have parents, you know how to love them. You have pets, we already know that. We just didn't realize that that was actually the whole thing. And
Yeah.
when we receive the teachings that help purify our confusion and help to gather the accumulations, we start to see what we already have as already the possibility in itself. And that is like, talk about a miracle. That's amazing. That's really an
And
amazing thing.
and Ngondro really is so genius because there's something going on here. Like, if you think of how many steps you've taken to the refrigerator and how many miles you've traveled to go see concerts and all of the things that you've done on a physical level to go towards these other objects. Now, like, so doing 100,000 prostrations towards these holy objects is really nothing. Like, to just do some physical activity in the direction of something really significant. And then, with same thing for all of these, how many words have we wasted lauding the characteristics of Kurt Cobain or whatever, that instead we're praising the lamas, right? Like, it's somebody who really is worthy of such words. And so we spend these few hundred thousands doing these activities towards something positive because we've spent so much time devoted to samsara. We have to spend some time, and that's like, it was really helpful. I think we definitely need to have an episode about devotion, to think instead of like, it's not just an accumulation of something. It's like we're training ourselves to keep our attention on this higher thing continuously. And we have to train ourselves to do that, but it doesn't have to be like a painful thing. It's like, learn to just keep your attention there continuously over time, and then the blessings pour in. And then because our attention is there.
I mean, nicely said. Nicely said. We have been directing our attention in a way that perpetuates our engagement in and participation in samsara. And the nature of samsara is that it doesn't last, that it's full of suffering, that it has tons of pain involved. And that sucks. So we might as well direct some of our attention, the time that we can cut out for practice, whether that's half an hour or 3 hours, whatever, that we can aim toward these special methods. It yields an incredible, it's like investing in Intel in 1985 or something. Apple
Yeah.
at the very beginning. Someone's like, I think this is going to be big. I think you should put $1,000 there. Imagine if you had. Some people did, right? You have
Yeah.
millions of dollars now. It's the same kind of thing. We've invested a lot in concerts, in the refrigerator, in our cars, in our kids, all of which, hey, there's some value there. I'm not saying there isn't, but it's very easy for that to be our whole activity. The Ngondro gives you something else. and to work on, to put your energy toward. And that has a purification effect. And it is like taking off one set of glasses after the next, with things becoming ever clearer and ever more perfect. Because the whole of pure perception, which we could also have a whole episode on, is, pure perception is the method of Vajrayana, and it's also the end of Vajrayana. Because if you have totally pure perception, you have no enemies. No matter
Yeah.
what they're doing to you, they could be pulling you over if they're cops. They could be beating you up if they're thugs. They could be taking you out to dinner if they're friends. But when everyone is equally Buddhas, equally Dakinis and Dakinis, then all you can get for them is excellence. And that whole opportunity exists simply by a little bit of practice. Because a little bit, you get used to it, you get into it. You
Yeah.
become new habits, right? This Ngondro is a habit, right? You have to start. And like when I started, I thought I was in good shape, and I was in my early 20s. I was like, I can knock this out. I thought I was gonna die. In about 50 prostrations, I was like, oh my God, what did I sign up for? I literally was like, I'm not sure if I can go any further with this. Even that you can get used to. So anything can happen. And by directing just a little bit of our energy into this, the payoff is so large that on some level you think, well, if half an hour does this, I wonder what an hour does. And that's how one becomes a full-time practitioner. Not that we give up our jobs or give up our families or whatever. It's that everything has this opportunity. And that's what the Ngondro really is. It's an opportunity to go from completely ordinary, someone who just has this vague aspiration that there's more to life than being ridiculous as we currently are, all the way to Buddhahood in the space of just 5 practices or 4 practices, where the possibility really becomes evident. And that becomes most evident in the Guru Yoga.
Yeah. Oh, I rejoice in our series on Ngondro, and I hope that you are inspired as listeners to do it if you haven't already done it, or if you have done it, to keep doing it and to understand how amazing it is. And it's really worthwhile. For those of you who are thinking, do I really have to do all the 100,000? You really should, because Joe and I are both evidence of the amount of joy that this practice brought to our lives. And I would not have it if I hadn't done my Ngondro accumulations. I can tell you, wouldn't have rewritten my life the way it has if it was just stayed a vague interest and I just read, a few books and whatever. It really is like a launching pad for making this my whole life. And it works. It really works. It has blessings. It has special juice to it that will work if you do it. And so I thank you for watching all of these episodes about it and hearing Joe and I ramble on and on about how wonderful it is. But I hope someday you feel the